Hola, hola! Welcome to the Breakthrough Brand Show. I'm Fabi Paolini, and my mission on this podcast is to give you the behind-the-scenes stories, anecdotes, and unique perspectives behind building a premium brand that makes a real impact. I believe that when you create a message that is aligned with your truth, you can have the breakthroughs that changes lives. Each week, me and my guests share with you how we're making an impact with our message and the stories behind our success. So that being said, let's dive into today's episode. Have you ever had those moments in your business where you feel like things are kind of like you're into this kind of stuck energy and things aren't necessarily flowing as much, and you want to figure out a way to get into a state of flow, like a feeling like I can do this, I've got it, I've got ideas coming through and everything is coming in and you're excited and you're connected and you feel like completely unstoppable. I think that for me personally, this is something that I consistently work on. Figuring out how to do this and how to continue doing it throughout any challenge or all the challenges that will be presented. Because what I've come to realize over time is that challenges will always be here, and opportunities for you to get out of flow will absolutely always be here. And it's really your job to figure out, well, how do I make sure that I become uninterrupted? I watched this video the other day and they were talking about that concept of who are you uninterrupted? Who are you without pressing pause as often? And I thought that it was so powerful and so beautiful. And anyways, I really think that that's really the key at the end of the day. Who are you uninterrupted? And how do I get into a place of being uninterrupted and full of power and full of energy? Because what I really know to be true is that being in the state of flow is one of the best feelings in the world. And for me, one of the things that I often talk about is how, for me, building success in my business, yes, financially is something that matters or, I love, but that's not what I'm craving most. What I'm craving most is being in a place of creativity and being in a place of flow. And I feel like the more successful I am, unsurprisingly, the more I can be in tune with that creativity and the more that I could focus on just being in a state of flow. And that's what I'm looking for, right? Like that's my little nirvana every day if possible. So being in flow is something that I personally value a lot. And I've come to a place in my business where I don't really take action unless I'm in a state of flow, which I know is kind of crazy, but it's true. Like I don't move forward unless it's something that feels really good to me. And I really use this as a way to make a lot of decisions. Now, that being said, obviously there are moments where you have to kind of get into the discipline of getting in flow, especially after you've made certain decisions in your life or in your business or things that you want or like, just decisions about how you want to show up and how often you want to show up or whatever that may be. But for me, I think that it's really important to find the way. How do I get in flow? How do I get in flow? How do I get my mojo back when I feel like I've kind of lost it a little bit? And that's kind of what I want to talk about today, because I think that it's really powerful. So first things first, I think that having flow in or being in a state of flow or in a place where you can receive downloads is, I feel like there's certain things that need to happen. And obviously I'm going to talk to you guys from my perspective as a brand strategist and part of the work that I do personally in my job and like kind of what I believe to be very true through the work that I do. And I feel like there's certain things that need to be in place for me to actually be in flow. And part of that is having a lot of understanding around who I am and what I speak to and who my audience is and what my message is. Like if I know these things and I'm embodying these things and I am these things because it is period, like literally who I am, period. I think that those messages that come through to me can come in easier just because there's a lot of clarity and a lot of connection with myself already. And that's something that I really value a lot, right? So having a lot of clarity within that message is truly powerful. And I think that it's just like you have that really solid foundation and it changes everything. I do go into this a lot in my training at readytoinvestclients.com, by the way, around messaging and around uncovering something that I call your angle of mastery. I'll have to do a whole other episode on that topic, but your angle of mastery, what makes you who you are and what makes you different. Like, I think that for me personally, having these things in the back of my mind of like, how do I communicate? What do I value? What makes me different? What makes me unique? And not something that I need to think about anytime that I create, but something that I allow to just be because I have a lot of clarity on these things is really powerful, right? So I always begin with that little caveat because I do think that sometimes people don't have clarity around these things, don't have clarity around their audience, and don't have clarity around who they are, and don't have clarity around how do I communicate? What do I want to say? Like all these different things. And therefore, it makes everything just a little bit harder when you're trying to get into flow. It's like, okay, I'm in flow, but I don't know what the point of this is. Almost like, what is my message? What am I trying to say? Right. So I do think that matters, but then there's a lot of other things that need to be in place for you to get into flow. First of all, second of all, I also think that it's not about forcing your way to get into a flow state or forcing your way to do anything. I think that we believe sometimes that we can solve a problem head on, like, let's go. And sometimes that may be true, like if it's something mathematical or something simple like that. But when it comes to, okay, how do I communicate? How do I say things that feel powerful? What do I create in my business that feels like exciting and that makes me feel unstoppable and makes me bring this momentum? And how do I really show up? I don't think that that's something that you could figure out from a head perspective. It's something that comes through your heart even more, right? Like, it's like you allow these ideas to come through, and it's not that you can't do them through your head, but I do think that the ideas that are the most powerful ones are the ones that are just channeled through, that are part of flow, right? And I actually have the story of a few months ago, I did this live challenge and I channeled that whole challenge within like hours. I made a decision on a Thursday, you know what, I think I'm gonna put together a challenge. And that following day on Friday, I was at the DMV, and because I needed to renew my driver's license, whatever. And it took forever. The line was super long. I was there all day, basically. But during that time, I just could not stop writing. And I have like endless notes on my phone with all of the ideas behind this event that I wanted to create. And it just came through. And then afterwards, when I ended up doing the event, and it ended up being a really successful event, it was a 60 or 70K launch, and something that I just kind of put together pretty quickly. And it just kind of came through to me, and it was a download. That to me is something really powerful, and what I thrive for, not me sitting down and forcing myself, well, I need to create this event because I need to make money, or I need to do this, or I need to do that. I don't think that strategy works. Personally, I don't think that works. I think that it works in giving your ego a nice like little pat in the back, like, look, you're doing things. But I don't think that it works in the sense of like the energy isn't necessarily what it needs to be for you to be able to attract the people that you want to attract. So for me, I have kind of a little bit of a process that I go through. Part of it is a bit of self-coaching as well, that goes into me going back into a state of flow or getting into a state of flow when I'm creating. First thing is that if I'm not in a state of flow, it usually means that there's something that I'm not accepting, right? There's something there that I'm not necessarily accepting in my situation, right? I think that if you're trying to get back into a state of flow and find your mojo again, let's say in a different way, it kind of implies that you're out of that state of flow, and it's not. And I mean, obviously, we're human beings and we're not going to be high at the top every single moment of every single day, 24/7, because that doesn't make any sense, obviously. But I do think that, whenever you're good and you're in feeling good and high vibe and just feeling the energy, like main character energy or main character vibes or whatever, those flow state ideas or downloads will come easier to you. So what I'm implying is really what happens when some event happened in your personal life or in your business or whatever, and you're trying to find your way back into a state of flow. How do I do that? And I really believe that the first step to that, beyond what we talked about before, is really acceptance. Like really accepting the situation, the circumstance, the place, whatever is going on, like really accepting where you're at right now and just letting it happen however it needs to happen. Like, okay, this is what's going on. And I need to believe that everything is happening for me. And I think that whenever we're not in acceptance, we're in resistance. And when we're in resistance, we create friction. And that friction is the thing that takes us out of that state of flow. So for me, just really accepting the situation is key, right? Like not fighting it, not coming into, I need to come into a state of flow or because I need clients or attaching, right? It's really the opposite. It's like the more into acceptance that you can be, the more detached you will be. And therefore, the more flow will come through or the more creativity is going to come in through that. So for me, being in a state of acceptance is really important. And then just kind of thinking about, well, what do I want to create before you jump into getting into flow? Like, what is it that you desire? So for me, one thing that I've learned is that, and this is because I'm a generator and this is part of my personality and part of who I am and all the things, right? Like maybe you're different than I am. So you have to think into what works for you. But what I've noticed is that what makes me really change my energy and shift into like feeling really good is me just really creating. Like, let me create something. Let me do something different. Let me shake things up. And I talked about this in another episode, but it's like, how do I really shake things up? How do I feel good about myself right now? And how do I, what can I create that feels exciting to me, right? So for example, right now I'm starting to get into a state of flow around a special project that I want to develop and work on. And I'm trying to figure out certain pieces of it. And I'm really excited about it. And it's like, I love creating. I think that for me, going into a state of creation makes me feel really good. So I understand, okay, I want to create, I want to show up. I have this desire in my heart to be more visible, to be more present, to be more, just be more there, like actually show up and bring this energy into my business and into my audience and all these different things. And then I completely let it go. And I make an active decision of, I'm just going to live my life you know how people say, what would your ideal day in the life look like? Like plan it out. What would that look like? And how do you build a business around that? Right. So for me, it's like, what if I could live that day today? Right. And how do I feel into me being in that day right now? And maybe it's, I'm going to go out and cook, or I'm going to go out, which is not going to be the case for me, by the way. But anyways, or I'm going to go out and dance with my husband, or I'm going to play with my kids, or I'm going to do something completely out of the normal that takes me out of my regular day-to-day routine, but makes me feel like really good and excited and connected and like completely let go of my business and what I want to create at the moment. And I think that the more that I could do that, the more that I think like that's actual self-care, right? Like the more that I really nurture my heart and nurture myself and get out of attachment around this thing that I need to create or whatever, and just allow the ideas to come through, again, with knowing in the back of your mind what your message is, in general, because usually for me, when I'm in a state of flow, my message evolves, right? And like it's something new comes through. But I think that, like, I know my message, I'm in a state of acceptance, and I'm making a very active decision to become the main character of the story. I kind of like this, I think that this is, I've heard a lot of people on TikTok talk about this, like, main character vibes. Like, what if you were the main character of this movie, right? Like, and like, how do you show up? How do you show up if you're the main character? Just kind of think it's kind of silly, but at the same time, it's not, right? And it's, okay, well, what if all of the, all the things that have happened or whatever is just a big art, like, it's like, I'm about to hit my highest level yet, and I'm about to do something amazing. And I know that this is true. This is truth within me. So how can I embody that? How do I live my life to the fullest from this place? For me, that is the most powerful thing that I can do. Just really connect to, what? I'm not in a state of flow because I had something happen in my personal life, or I had something happen in my business, or whatever might be going on. But you know what? I don't care. Like, I'm going to show up and I'm going to live my life to the fullest and just really enjoy it. And what happens for me personally is that when I make an active decision to just fuck it, just like, you know what? I'm just going to live my life and go for it and be happy and enjoy myself and all the things. That's when I'm opening up the channels of communication, right? Like, from the universe or source or whatever you want to call it. I don't care what you call it, or whatever it means to you, God, whatever, right? But that's what helps me. So I usually, number one, make this like decision to accept the situation that I'm in, and make a kind of decision of like, you know what? I want to create something, and I want to feel my mojo again, and I want to feel connected, and I'm asking for it. And I'm like, just bring me the messages and bring me the downloads and the ideas, and I'm open to them. And because I trust that you're going to get them to me, I'm going to go and live my life. I'm going to go and live my life and be happy and enjoy myself and feel connected and live to the fullest and just allow. That to me is what power looks like in my personal life. Like, that's what it looks like. So what happens usually for me is that when I'm in that state, ideas will start to trickle in. But also, sometimes it also means like, I'm open to this, I'm making this decision, but I'm sitting down and doing the work, right? So if part of you getting into flow is like, I want to create like killer content that really speaks to my ideal audience, that truly feels powerful and connected, and like, yes, this is it, this is what I want to say, right? So you've made that decision, but you also have to sometimes sit down and do it, because if you're not in a state of flow and it's hard for you to get into momentum, you have to build that momentum for yourself. So sometimes what I will do is I will make a decision of like, okay, I'm writing content this week. And actually, I'll tell you more personally, I've had a few weeks or I had a few weeks before where I feel like I was out of flow. There was things that were going on in my personal life. There was a lot of stuff going on in my life. I usually don't share a lot of my personal stuff, but there was a lot of going on in my personal life, and kind of things that I've been processing, very difficult and heavy things, that have been tough. And what happens is that when we have situations like this going on, it kind of obviously will take you out of that state of flow, because my brain and my heart were focused on healing the things that I needed to heal and processing the things that I needed to process, and not focus on, let me go out and create content, right? So I took a few weeks off from creating content. And when I made a decision to come back and say, okay, I'm done, this is resolved, I feel good about this situation, or relatively good about the situation, and I feel like I'm ready to move on, and I'm ready to come back into like my power and feeling connected and feeling unstoppable and feeling that unwavering certainty within myself. I sit down to write, and I'm like, I don't know what I want to say. But what helps me is to actually sometimes just have the moment of, okay, I'm going to sit down and start writing, and whatever comes through is going to come through. I don't really care. And that exercise of like, let me get into creating, but from a place of detachment is really helpful because I'm kind of opening up. It's like you're kind of starting to push the car, right? And it's like starting to move a little bit. And what happens is that then those ideas come in. At least that's what works for me. So that's literally what I just did, a few weeks ago. I sat down to write. Finally, after weeks of kind of being in the hiding a little bit, I sat down to write. I sat down to create. And then I had a few really good ideas come through. But the more that I started writing, like the more that flow came in. And then I just kept on. It was like I opened up a faucet and these ideas would pour out of me. And that's what really helps me as well, right? Like just really getting into the discipline of doing the work, but also living your life at the same time. It's like, I'm not attaching everything it needs to happen right now. It needs to happen this moment, but I'm also kind of like, I know that this is what I want to create, or I want to create something, and I know what my message is, and I know what I'm doing. So all of these kind of things are happening at the same time. And part of that for me also is like, doing breathing exercise. So I have this little joke. I have this joke that if you call it meditation, I'm not going to do it. But if you call it a breathing exercise, I will breathe all day long. I will do breathing exercises, guided breathing exercises, like literally all day long, 45-minute ones if you want to. But if you tell me that it's called a meditation, I'll be like, I don't have time to meditate. It's just one of those things. So for me, doing that is very helpful, and just asking myself, like, what wants to come through right now? And just reconnecting to your power. And this is a reminder for you. You have so much power. Like, it's insane the amount of power that you have. There's so much power within you right now, and you keep on forgetting. So it's like, how do I plug back into my power source, which is me? How do I plug into my heart? How do I plug into these downloads that are ready to come through and ready to be shared with the world, right? So whatever it takes for you to do that. For me, it's these meditation / breathing exercises / like visualization processes. It's acceptance. It's living my life from the main character energy of like, yes, you know what? Screw it. Whatever is happening in my life, or whatever took me out of flow, I don't care. I love my life, and I know that I've got this, and everything will work itself out. And I'm so excited, and I'm ready to go, and I'm ready to move forward, and like all of these amazing things. And that's what my focus is on, right? So when I do that and I go out and I live my life, ideas start like, whoop, oh man, that was good. And it's just like nonstop. One other thing that I have for you, or a couple of other things that I have for you. Number one, there's this book that for me, it has been extremely helpful in actually helping me get into a state of flow. And it's called Dollars Flow to Me Easily by Richard Dotts. I know that might sound like very specific, but it's not really necessarily only a book about making money. It's really a book about getting back into flow. At least that's how I see it. That's what it does. And it's a very tiny little book. It's like 50 pages long, or 60 or something really short. Like you could literally read the whole book in a couple of hours. But for me, every time that I read it, I'm like, okay, got it. Let's go. Let's go. Let me focus on power. And it's like these insane ideas will come to me through that, right? So that really helps me. And also the other piece that helps me, tying it back to what I was talking about in the beginning, is just having a lot of connection with your message, and a lot of connection with what you want to say, and who you're talking to, and who you are, and how you're coming through. So really, the more power that you bring through that, the better. So like I was mentioning, if you go to readytoinvestclients.com, or you'll find the links below, that is going to really help you with just clarifying your own message. And I just recently re-recorded this, by the way, so go watch the new version because it's really good. And then also book the 15-minute session with me. It's brandmessagesession.com. And what I'll do is I will look at your messaging, and I will tell you what things you can do to improve, or really just change the like who you attract, and change the energy behind your message and what you're putting out there so that you're able to attract more high quality people. So make sure that you check that out as well, because those are things that will help you get back into flow. Being really connected with your message and knowing what you want to say and how you want to say it inevitably is going to help you feel much more powerful in everything that you're doing. So hopefully that this is helpful for you. I can't wait to see you in another episode really soon. Please let me know in the comments below if this resonated, if this was helpful, and what else you want me to talk about next time. I'll see you soon. Gracias for listening to today's episode of the Breakthrough Brand Show. To listen to more episodes or to be featured as a guest, go to fabipaolini.com/podcast for more details. Can I ask you for something? If you got value out of this episode, would you share it on social media? Just do a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend, or just post it online. If you know somebody that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let me know about the show and include the hashtag Breakthrough Brand Show. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We're regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure that you don't miss any episode, go ahead and subscribe right now. Your thumbs up, rating, amor, love, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean so much to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, fabipaolini.com, or follow me everywhere as Fabi Paolini. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time. Con amor, Fabi.